Alrighty, guys, welcome to the Tuesday live from the Arctic blast of 2024. I am on with two awesome guys. I've got John Willis from Special Operations Equipment and Tag. Tag is back from Life Done Free. Guys, how's it going?
Good.
Yeah, good. Just trying to stay warm.
Yeah, so you said, so Tag's high today is our low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, right now it's -2, but I bet you the wind chill factor right now is probably -12 or 13. I didn't look it up, but that's probably what it is.
Yeah, and I see we've got AJ on from Montana, so he's probably laughing at us complaining about the cold here in Tennessee, but we're not built for this down here at all. So,
but we're not complaining.
For the first year, my pipes did not freeze when we went down below 10 last night without dripping. So I didn't have to drip my faucets for the first year because Tactical rerouted all my plumbing under my house this year.
Love that.
Yeah, we're not complaining. We're just conversating about it. I've never had pipes freeze, but I still drip them just in case.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
okay, Tag,
tell us great opportunity.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Tell us what it's like on an off-grid homestead. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go relocate.
Yeah, deal. Oh, my goodness. So, and I tell people this all the time, and we talk about this in our community a lot, but, living off grid and specifically living off grid through weather like this is really just a big training exercise. And we get to learn how to improve our systems, and we get to learn how to run them more efficiently. And we've had, super cold weather. Most everybody around me has been either without power, is currently without power. I'm not, because I'm off grid and I have my own solar system, but water is a gigantic issue. We water all of our animals through automatic systems 10 months out of the year. Well, that's great until it starts freezing, right? And then so we're back to living like it's in the 1800s, kind of, and that we're hauling water by the bucket and, doing those kind of things to keep the animals, taken care of, and, those kind of things. But, truth is, living off grid is really no more different than not any different than living, how anybody else lives. I've got electricity, I have air conditioners, I have refrigerators, I have all of those things. It really comes down to a management issue. And what I mean by that is like, when I know, for example, that we're going to go through 4 days of no sun, I'm going to spend a bunch of my time making sure all my Milwaukee batteries are charged and all my rigid batteries are charged. And I'm going to make sure all that stuff is there so that I can begin to tune down the power that I'm using in the house. And so I have in my breaker box, I have my essentials, which would be, your water pumps, so you can take a shower, right? Obviously that's important. Your refrigerator, the internet can be important if you want to stay entertained, but I begin to shut everything down, and then we run what's called a red day, which we're just running very minimum. But at night, sometimes if the power's low, I'll hook a Milwaukee battery to a light. That's the light that we'll use. But it's again, it's just a management issue, to me. But probably don't know any better. So
same thing going here. Like we run off pressurized water all the time until it freezes. So we've got stock tanks, black stock tanks, and as soon as the sun comes out, it starts melting those. And I have a floating stock tank heater, and I go from one to the other, 24 hours here, 24 hours here. This one will be ice crusted. We'll bust that. And then as I suck that water down, I'll just pull water out of the building with 5-gallon buckets, and I'll move 30 gallons of water at a time and just top those back off, whether we need it or not. It's much easier to move it during the day than the middle of the night. And I do that twice a day. I go out and I give food and water everything with a pitcher. We're using rubber bowls, so those things freeze up, bust them out, fill them back up. And we do that twice a day. And we just maintain that. It'll be about 6 or 7 days of doing that. And then it'll ease up. And if we were going to go more sustained cold, I would just move bigger water tanks in where the animals are, consolidate the animals, more compressed. And then I could wood heat that if I need to. We've got a big drum stove for a row house, and it's got sheet metal around it. So we can fill that in with rock ballast or diatomaceous earth or sand. So we have that thermal sink battery to it. And that would take care of it. It's the same thing we do in the row house.
Yeah, I think that's the greatest thing about all these experiences, John, is just learning to fight through them and, learning what makes you better and, what makes you a little more free, because, there may come a time where we don't have, things or can't get things. And so I don't mind this weather at all. Kills off the bugs and, again, allows us to get, a little more training in, because again, living off grid is just nothing more than management, but it's exciting.
Yeah, it's all practice. Yep. Why do I have 60 rabbits right now? That's just practice. It's meat on the hoof that we can easily scale if we ever have to.
Yeah.
I have a day job. We have power. We have electricity. But if that ever changed, within 30 minutes, we could completely reroute everything we're doing in a different manner.
Yeah. I think you said something really, really important there. And to anybody out there that's listening is, go practice these things. Practice what it would be like to live in this type of environment, without power or without the ability to move water or, because water to me is the big one, but the rest of them are just a money equation. But I would challenge everybody to go do that.
Yeah. Water catchment is very easy to capture as long as you capture it when there's water. When it's frozen, water's not coming out of the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even a city dweller, man, just turn that circuit. Don't even tell them you're doing it. Turn the circuit breaker off. Camp in the living room. Just give it a shot, man. If you haven't moved, everybody's got, I'm going to get these 55-gallon drums of water. That's awesome. Till your wife has to move them. You still need those smaller cubes. And then, when the power goes out, how are you going to take a shower? You can boil water, and then you have cold water, mix it up in a cup, and you just take a bird bath in the shower,
Yeah.
It's just
when I think it's redundant. It is kind of camping. And me and my wife joke all the time that we've spent all our retirement and all of our resources to live like we live in the 1800s. And it's kind of like like the inside family joke. But the truth is they didn't have solar panels in the 1800s, and they didn't have, high speed, pumps that'll move things. But yeah, it is quite fun. Speaking about water, we've got a coil in our stove in our kitchen, and I can heat water that way too. So we have a backup source, but so far so good. We haven't lost our ability to take a hot shower, which is something I really enjoy.
Yeah,
I don't know,
I've seen guys running water boxes where they just coil around that pipe coming out of the stoves too.
Yep.
Yeah,
we don't have a normal stove in our kitchen. We have a Kitchen Queen Grand Comfort wood stove, but it's got a built-in coil in it.
Yeah.
And so it's just got basically two pipes sticking out the back. You can run to, a big stainless steel tank, and it will just circulate the water for you. But I love it. My wife loves cooking on it. The food tastes different. And certainly there's a learning curve, but again, living like you're in the 1800s, right? I could have bought 3 of the best stoves out there for what I paid for that frickin' wood burning stove.
Yeah, exactly. People have this concept that they're going to go buy a $50, $100 wood stove off Marketplace and have no idea the amount of wood that those things eat compared to a more modern and closed up stove.
Yeah, and you get them with reburners and you get them with that stuff, they become pretty efficient. I have a big house, my house is 5,000 square feet, but I can heat the whole thing with the Kitchen Queen Grand Comfort wood cook stove in the front of it. Now you get up into the upper ends and are, further away, those corners can be a little bit cold when it's running, but we do just fine. Yeah, don't skip on your wood burning stove. Take John's advice. That's a good, solid piece of advice.
Yeah, those older stoves like that, it's just a beacon. It just screams, I'm over here. Whereas the more modern stuff, man, nothing coming out of that chimney but steam.
Yeah. Hey, she's back.
I'm back. I'm coming to you from next door at my neighbor.
Well, maybe.
About whatever you were talking about, because I don't know.
Cool.
Yeah, we were just talking about living off grid and not just even that, just about how these are training opportunities to get better at living free and doing more for yourself. Embrace these opportunities as training. And if you can't handle these kinds of challenges, then a Great Depression is going to really kick your butt, So enjoy it and, embrace it, I think.
She's still having a little bit of glitch in there.
So we have 2 generators, and one is a huge, big, like whole house capable one. It's a Generac, and then I have my little Honda. I'm hoping you can hear me. And good. And I've never started the Generac by myself before. So this week, before everything hit, we did reps and sets where Tactical was like, okay, you got to start it this time. And it hasn't been started for months. And so I was out there trying to start it, and it wouldn't start, and it wouldn't start. And then he went to start it, and it wouldn't start. He's like, oh, yeah, I forgot to check if there was gas in it. So after the gas was in, I actually got the thing started for the first time in my life, which was super exciting. So, yeah, that was that was our reps and sets. But, getting ready for this storm, while it took us some time because we hadn't done all of our winter preps for the animals, it was nowhere near as bad as last year before we put some things in place. So I think these are great times for lessons for that, for sure.
Yeah, I like the opportunity.
We typically we buy straw. I bring straw in every year, and we build like an igloo around the dog kennels that we use for chicken coops and dog kennels. And every year I say, I'm not going to do this again. They don't use it. And every year we do it. And I don't know why it never crossed my mind. I saw people on Facebook this year putting pallets up and they're shrink wrapping that stuff because all you need is the wind block. It's not for the warmth. It gives the animal no warmth really. So I'm going to try that. I've staged a bunch of pallets around a couple of those kennels this time, and they seem to be working. But that'll save hundreds of dollars in straw. Every year I bring that stuff in, and every year I'm like, man, these dogs don't even use this straw. Why am I doing this? And they're out right now in the snow, in the ice. All the sheep, we built a lean-to, filled it with, put straw in there. Those sheep never walked in that lean-to one time. They're out there in the snow, in the ice. They have ice crystals all over them.
Yeah, my dogs are the same way, that we've got a place for them to go, but they sleep on the hill or they sleep in the snow or
Yep.
Even in this weather, they're out there playing and running and jumping. Crazy.
Yep.
Better them than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we might have lost Nicole again, or she's sitting really, really still. There she is. Oh, no audio. Nope. So, hey, John, I've been trying to follow your homestead apprentice stuff. I think that is super neat. I seen your ad today on some of the contestants. That is super, super neat.
Yeah, they're coming in, man. So we're starting to build some short form content around them. All kinds of different walks of life, man. I think it's really turning into something for sure.
Yeah, I think I've got a call tomorrow with Bob. I think it's tomorrow, to talk about how to, let grid down help or freesteading help or something help. I don't really know the details, but something. We have a call. I think it's tomorrow.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to it, man. We've got people coming from all over the place, and we'll run that test, the gauntlet. We'll put that together right after Self-Reliance Festival, and then we'll pull two teams out of that, and then kind of just run them parallel to each other, and then bring them together to do projects together, and just kind of see how that develops. I kind of took from Joel Salatin. He says, we just kind of let people gravitate to what they're good at and adopt those tasks and then turn that into a business. So that's kind of what we're looking at, is an apprenticeship program to develop people for the community that we can hire out of for businesses, but also the aspect of how you're bringing people into your community as properties become available that you want there, rather than just leaving it up to chance and having that whole, community change from people that don't have your values. So being able to nest them into different communities, and that can be North Carolina, that can be by Nicole, that could be out by you, that could be people here. So having those networks, if they're like, man, I came in, I really like this stuff, but I don't like Tennessee. Well, there's other options. We can put them towards you guys. And then also, for people coming in that want to homestead, but also want some kind of income while they're doing that, then, the possibility of bringing them into some of our businesses as well, if they don't have businesses themselves, and then also how to develop a business themselves.
No audio, Nicole.
She's muted.
Yeah, you look like you're muted.
Yeah, if I just unmute myself, it'd be like you could
There
hear
you go.
Yeah, it's super nice when you need a couple of stock tank heaters because it's going to be freezing, to have a little bit of cash to get the things you need when you need them. And I think you can build a homestead from scraps and nothing, and that's really awesome to watch people do that. But I can also say the couple of times where I've had something happen where money helped me out, it was also nice to have some money to deal with things, debt bills or whatever. So I love how they're pairing that, how John, how you're pairing that people need an income too. And I think it benefits anybody who has a business in a rural area with finding people who do good work, which is also a challenge. I watched your job post with much interest in the last 2 weeks or so on Facebook, looking for sewers and all of the crap people are giving you. And how many people have showed up from that ad to sew?
Zero local people have showed up. We've hired 2. I made another posting last night, and it's the same exact shit show that the other one was. Not a single person has showed up. I said, look, we will hire you. Your pay depends on your ability and your skill. And if you can't sew and you want to learn, if you come in on your time, on your own time, we will teach you. And the only thing they're focusing on is that we're not paying them to come in on their own time. Not a one of them said, hey, I can sew. Or, I've got people on the floor right now that have worked for me for 5 years that make more money than their family members that work at Carhartt, 20-year employees. So we pay them good. For a sew shop, this place is incredible compared to any factory. And it's not a bad job, man. Like we really, and it's also it weeds people out. We do not need, negative, cancerous people in there. When you get a bad team member, man, it starts to infect and rot other people. So that just really, it keeps them at the gate right away.
It's just
finding good help's really hard these days.
Employing so many people in that county, like it would make a real difference if you had every sewing machine full of people in those county for the income in that county. And it's just like all they do is ask if you have a 401k. I'm like, if you're unemployed, like why is your first worry your 401k?
What's it pay? A lot more than the job that you currently don't have. People.
I could see John saying it just like that too.
I say exactly that. Well, people here that want to work, they have jobs. It's if they don't have a job, they just don't want a job. There is that exception, of course, and the community helps take care of those people. But the community quickly finds out when you're pretending to be one of those people. People that want to do things, they just do things. I had a guy that came and asked me. I didn't need him at all. I was freshly here, and he came every Monday and asked for a job. And I would say, come back next Monday, maybe something will change. And he rode a lawnmower in the snow to get here. I had to hire him at that point. That man worked for me for 15 years.
Yeah. How cool is that?
Yeah. Like I want to be able to say, I pay my employees more than anybody else in this town.
So how have your employees done with getting to work with the ice and snow this week? Have most of them shown up, or how's that gone for you, John?
So several showed up yesterday, and I said, hey, go ahead and take off. Most of them did not show up. We tried to get a hold of them ahead of time. Those same ones are here, and then some that should be here are not here. That's how it always is. Those are also typically the last person in the door is always the first person out the door. It all coincides. It all coincides with income as well, typically.
Yeah.
I can remember my mom one time in Washington, D.C. It was about 8 miles to work for her. And we got like, I don't know, 18 inches of snow. And she put on her like cross-country skis, and she cross-country skied to work, cross-country skied home, because there was no way that it was going to work with the car. And yeah, I didn't even think anything of it as a kid, but now I look at that and I'm like, yeah, that's a work ethic right there.
Yeah. When as a young person, when my vehicle was broken, I rode a bicycle to work. It was never an option to not show up to work. My first job, I was 13 and a half years old, and we could legally work in California. And I took a bus that transferred 2 buses. It took 90 minutes to get to work, to go to McDonald's, because my grandfather got me a job when I was 13 and a half years old. There was never, it wasn't even programmed in my head that it was an option to not go.
So Tag, how's that wood burning cook stove for you right now in the cold?
Yeah, John and I were actually talking about this earlier. It's awesome. I heat a big old house with it, and my wife cooks constantly on it, and I'm spoiled completely. And You know, she's the backbone of the homestead. And so, yeah, I couldn't complain at all. I love that it's got its own water source. You know, you can heat water with it. I love that it heats the house. I love that, you know, when we get trapped in the house with my snow bunny, she has, you know, two choices: put up with me or bake something. I mean, pretty hard to beat that, you know. So no, that's great. Our house is doing just fine. I've got one frozen pipe on an exterior wall that the pod behind it hasn't been built yet that I've been trying to deal with. But beyond that, we are just cooking right along.
It's
Not
awesome.
even challenging. Yeah.
I just moved my wood stove this year to the middle of the great room that I have. And so the heat has been completely different this winter for me.
Yeah.
To the point where it's almost too hot in the house.
Yeah.
Like, I'm wondering if I need a smaller stove, except for tonight, I won't be wondering that at all. But I keep looking at that stovepipe thinking, like, can I circulate water around that in the winter?
Yep.
In like, so that might be a future build for us, because I have the solar water heater in the summer, and that's great. But there is no reason not to also be heating water in my living room while the stove's going.
Do you not
Yeah, and
have
that's an
enough?
easy, very, very easy task. Very easy.
Do you not have enough battery bank and solar to run a mini split in there, Nicole?
So the solar system's on the cabin, not my house yet, but I have no, I don't have heating or cooling installed in my house after the big remodel. So, and a mini split's going in before April. I'm ordering it in about 2 days, so it doesn't arrive while I'm out of town, because I want to be here to help deal with it. But I have a mini split recommended by Hack My Homestead that he says just sips energy, and then that will also heat and cool. The wood heat for me is so much warmer feeling than electric heat through one of those, that for me, the mini split's more of it's a summertime thing, so it cools the house. And then also, if I were to get the flu, I don't want to have to deal with keeping the wood stove going. And I use one of those in my roasting shack. I have a mini split. So that thing I've had on, it still roast coffee. And if it gets too cold in there, I have to do 2 roasts before it's warm enough to actually achieve good tasting coffee roasts.
Got it.
Yeah, we have mini splits on our house too, and I use the Mitsubishi because they're the most efficient I could find. But we don't use them in the winter for heat at all. We just use them for air conditioning and then for a dehumidifier in the summertime, primarily.
And really, dehumidifying in the summer seems more important than the cooling.
Yeah.
Like, I run
we're pretty
in
lucky.
my room. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just saying we're pretty lucky to have so many options to do so many different things. You know, we're not, you know, not locked into, okay, I only have one way to do things. But go ahead. I was just making that comment.
Yeah, so as part of this remodel that I did last fall, I have wired in a sub panel to my house to take to solar. So then the foundation is set, because I'm not taking all of the electricity in my house off grid, just the things that I, think I need. And the main air conditioning is not intended to go off grid. I intend to run window units, but I may rethink that with the price of batteries and solar panels having fallen as much as they have. It might make sense. And so we're sort of looking at that, but we run like 4 chest freezers right now, and I'm not sure. I mean, and I have grid power, so.
Yeah, we've got 3 chest freezers and a refrigerator, and we run them all just fine. They don't really take that much power once they're cooled down. Right, they just run a little bit here and a little bit there. They're not running, all that much continuously, but you'll be able to run them. And battery prices and solar prices are coming way down. I could put my system in today for half of the cost it cost me 5 years ago to put it in. Half.
And so much of it now is just plug and play. You don't have to hodgepodge it together, man. They just come as modules and they just stack.
Yep. Yeah, I love it. I wish I could go back, because I would have spent a whole lot less money doing what I did.
Right. Yeah, but we needed the pioneers like you, Tag, to get us there. There had to be enough demand for it, for people to see people like you putting it together and figuring it out. For somebody to say, hey, I have a problem to solve. People find this difficult. If I go plug and play, I'm going to make some money. And that had to be part of the experience. So you pioneered for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I didn't think I was pioneering at the time. It's so crazy. entering this whole world and all of that. I didn't know I was doing what I was doing. I was just, which is crazy, but the business that provides service.
People used to, you used to have to, out of the back of a magazine, you'd send $5 and they'd send you these plans to buy some golf cart batteries and a charge controller and a cord, and you'd fabricate this thing on a little file cart. And I said, man, as soon as somebody puts that in a nice package, it's going to be $1 billion industry. And then Goal Zero popped up, and now they call them solar generators, and they're everywhere. And that's how the solar stuff's going, man. It's coming. Like Nicole's system is super clean, grid down solar, same thing. Everything just plugs right into it. It's such an easy install now.
Yeah,
it's come along.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Nicole. No, it's okay.
I ran into a bit of a grounding issue with mine, where the way my electric wiring was interfering with the solar system. So we had to do some additional tweaks after putting it in. But that was because apparently grounding was going through the siding on my cabin. So we had to remedy that. That was not good. So it also taught us lots of things about the person who built my place.
Oh, yeah. I'm still learning. I've lived off grid now for 5 years. And I'm learning every day about ways to make it more efficient. And, owning grid down or owning part of grid down has really helped me learn some of that stuff too. That, oh man, I wish I could have, or I wish I would have, or that'd have been better back then, but you learn as you go.
Yeah, I kind of look at that as a love the one you're with situation. If you've built the thing you like the way you love it, and then innovation happened, which always happens, you have to decide how long you're going to love the one you're with before you upgrade. Because if you're constantly upgrading, that doesn't really make sense.
But it's just you call it just a math equation. I mean, like right now I have 66 hours of power on full load. So I can, with no sun, no input, I can run 66 hours on full load. If I taken the exact same amount of money I spent when I put my system in, I could put a grid down system in that would give me 400% more for the exact same money. So it's hard for me. I love the system. I have a super high end Schneider system. It's top of the line. It does everything I want it to do, but man, just times change. And then I start looking, man, I could be, 240 hours of power. That'd be pretty cool,
What would turnkey price on that be for those components? Like when you order it, what would that cost?
Oh, I'm going to guess 50 grand probably. If you're talking about 4 times what I have, but I spent $53,000 on my system.
Is that battery or solar and battery? Is it panels also?
No, that's everything. Yeah. Yeah. But like on my old system, I say old, it's less, it's less than 5 years old, but on my old system, I got $25,000 in batteries by itself.
Yeah.
Just the batteries. That's not counting anything else, So, I just, again, it's a nice system. Everything works. It's giving me no problems. So I'm very reluctant to do anything with it because it's giving me no problems. But man, I'd sure love to have 240 hours of power with no sun. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But not today,
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I guess when you start running out of power because the sun hasn't been around for too long, that's when you start thinking, okay, maybe it is time to change. Or when you have to do maintenance on that system, that starts getting to the point where you're like, okay, maybe it's time for an upgrade, different battery bank or whatever.
Yeah, I think there's two schools of thought there, Nicole, at least for me personally. So when we get into those, I was talking to John about this earlier. When we get into those days, because it's really not a day issue, it can be whatever it wants to be today. But it's really, I'm looking out and I've got 4 or 5 days without sun is when it becomes a concern. But when I start noticing the power, we start turning things off. I mean, and so I know where the essential breakers are in my house, and I'll get down to where we're just running water, refrigerator, and internet or something, right? I mean, just the very, very basics. And so I kind of like those situations too, because it helps me train myself and my family for those days. And so I kind of welcome those, but at the same time, it would sure be nice just to turn it on and not worry about it. Just, the first world problems, right? I'd like to have some first world problems.
And when you're piecing those systems together, you can put more battery in than solar, because that battery, you can charge that battery off city power if you have it. You can also jam it full with a generator as you need to, and then sip it out of the solar. And then in the future, you can expand the solar out. But you're going to, it's run silent, run deep, on those days when that sun's not coming through, we're operating very differently.
Yes. Yeah. And you can deal with the batteries, but you can also deal with it with panels. The more panels you have, the better you charge in low light situations.
Yep.
Right. And so you can deal with it from that perspective too, which is cheaper than the battery perspective. But yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, I'd love to go back and rebuild my whole system from the beginning, but I don't want to go spend another 50 grand. I just don't.
Sounds
I
like you
just
could
don't.
spend like 15 grand and get something close to what you have
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think I priced it out, and I think I'd be about 21 or 22,000. I'm talking about panels and the whole thing. For the system, I paid $53,000 for 5 years ago. It's crazy. Then I
Yeah.
have to ask myself, well, in 5 years, will it be then even half of that cost?
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Although
so
with the 30% tax credit right now, the federal tax credit, that is what put my financials over the edge to prioritize the cabin build, because it added that water stability to the property, because it runs all the water on the property. And then I also get a 30% tax credit. So it brought the total cost down by 30%. The only deal is you have to make enough money to need that tax credit.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's not helpful at all.
It's a tax
not at all.
That's a write-off.
It's a write-off. Yep. Yep.
I
No,
see
it's good.
somebody's in SoCal. First of all, I was in SoCal, so I can tell you, get out of SoCal. I guess they're still making them grid tie that stuff in SoCal. If you have solar, you have to give them the excess power free.
Yeah.
SoCal, who also went around and poured concrete in everybody's wells and poured concrete in people's septics and made them take their systems. Man, get out of there while you can. You don't realize how bad it is until you step away and you're in freedom. And it really doesn't sink in until you've had freedom and you have to go back after a couple of years. That's when it really just dawns. You were desensitized to how things are. I say that having come from there and having to go back after being away from it for so long.
Yeah, the whole codes scenario where I am is so very different than Portland, Oregon, that it's almost a delight to work on construction projects, because it's the same thing with the solar build. Because it is not feeding back into the electric system, I'm basically just putting in a battery bank, and I can charge it from solar, I can charge it from the grid, I can charge it from a generator, and nobody cares about what that looks like. I mean, I care about what it looks like, but no official needs to come in and look at the charge controller and how it's wired and all of that.
Yeah, and
that's for today. That's for today, right? I mean, this is, I think, the biggest argument to not allowing it to be tied to the grid, and maybe even having two completely different systems, is because the law today allows it, right? But as soon as you connect to the grid, you're allowing that easement of that electrical line in there, and you are subject to, at some point, whatever they say. Now, hopefully, you guys are in Tennessee, lucky dogs, right? At least you're in a state that's favorable to those kind of things. But I'm not ever going to connect to the grid unless I'm old and just can't do it no more. But
yeah.
Okay, so if you put an RV pole on your property and a hookup to the grid, would that then give them the right in Kansas to come look at your solar system in your house?
If you connect the solar system to the grid, okay, so where you're selling power back, or there's that connection there, yes, 100% gives them the right to come in there and say what you can and what you can't do. And you give them the easement all the way to that electrical meter, right? If you actually look close at the paperwork, it's 6 feet on either side of the line that they dug up. That's their easement. They don't need a warrant. They don't need any of that stuff. All they have to do is come tell you that they don't like the way you voted. And so because you've used too many energy credits, that you're going to shut you down. And I don't have my tinfoil hat with me today, or I'd wear it for you guys, but that's what I'm opposed to, which is why I won't do it. I just don't. I don't want the strings. I don't want the stroke.
We have no codes or zoning here. For the most part, we do anything we want unless it's a septic system, and then it's allowed versus able. Don't ask, don't tell kind of stuff. We have ours are all perked and they're all legit. The guy came out. But you had a bunch of people move in. They sold all their overpriced houses on the coast, came out with fistfuls of money, bought 100 acres of property, set to build the McMansion, and the contractor's like, Roger that, 5 years. And they're like, whoa. So they build these tiny houses, and all the power companies were coming out, setting poles and energizing them. The mobile home industry saw their sales tank, got with the governor, and the governor leaned on all the power companies and said, hey, if it doesn't have a Department of Transportation number, you cannot energize these sheds anymore. So you can have $100,000 tiny house on wheels and you can strap it in. But if there's not a dot number, you can't do any of these Eagle building conversions anymore. So the workaround is you just solar them. You just put your own system on them.
Yeah.
They have nothing to say other than they won't give you power. No problem.
Yeah.
Better off in the future for you.
Yeah.
Now here's a question: have we discussed the agricultural tax exemption?
I don't think we have today.
No. I don't know what it is because I'm not using it. What is it? Do you know?
Tell us about it. Are you talking about registering as a farm? Is that what we're talking about?
So I assume that's what he's talking about.
We are not. I am partially commercial, partially residential. I have no farm exemption here. I've been told over and over, I do not have enough property to be registered as a farm. So
yeah, in Kansas, theory, you have to have at least 20 acres.
So in theory, get a friend, use his ID, and that'll at least negate your taxes. But if you're paying tax on the front, that's a tax write-off off the back. If you have any kind of income, you just need an accountant. Whether you pay it now or you get it back later, it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, it's a question for Tag. Do you use the wood stove in the summer to cook or use an outside grill in the summer?
Yeah, so no, we do not use the wood stove in the summer because that would cook us out of our house. Oh my goodness, that would be horrible. So we have an outdoor kitchen right outside the regular kitchen. And so my beautiful bride goes outside and cooks on the outdoor kitchen during the summertime.
And that's, if you look at like the pioneer homes, what were those called? Dog runs or dog trots, cabin with that breezeway. And that was that outside cookway. We eat ribeye. That's what we eat probably twice a day, almost every day. We eat ribeye. And I've got a camp chef thing outside. It's a griddle for doing pancakes. I thought it'd be cool for prepping. It's set in a box for 10 years. And then we opened it up and got the mice nests out of it. And man, that thing, I can have it to 700 degrees on cast iron in 2 minutes. Hit it literally an 1.5 to 2 inch ribeye. 1 minute here, 1 minute here, and then just tuck that thing in the oven or just put it on more cast iron at a lower temp, man. In under 5 minutes, we've got dinner ready to go.
Yeah. I have to admit, I used that thing like every night leading up to Self-Reliance Festival last time. I was just like, I'll just eat a ribeye every night, and then I won't be hungry.
Yep. Yeah. And it runs on propane. I've got 100 cylinders, and in literally in 2 minutes, that thing is melting most pans. It's incredible.
Yeah. I like it when we get to cook outside. I like it when that time of year comes around, although I don't get much baked goods, but you know, which is a big thing for me, but she can get out and, cook just every meal like anybody else does, just does it outside on the outdoor kitchen. Now she also has a processing kitchen, a separate building that's all stainless steel, and that she can go in and cook if it's the weather's bad or whatever it is. But I would not be heating up my house when it's 100 degrees outside. No, thank you.
It is way better not to can in your house in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you, I built her the processing kitchen because I got tired of her. My wife likes to render lard. And so she gets 3 of those cook pans going in the kitchen, and oh my gosh, it stinks. And so she thought that I was going to be all nice and build her this kitchen, but the truth is I wanted the stink out of my house. So I built her own building to render all of her lard. So, because man, she makes all the soaps and lotions and all the potions and stuff, and so we did it that way, so I don't have to smell it.
For people running city power or power, you can put 3 crock pots right outside. Just run those things outside, man. Never even smell them.
I also learned that lesson the hard way by making lard inside my house one time before I started doing the crock pot method outside. It was like, because once you've started, you don't want to stop.
No.
And so then you're like, I have just cursed myself to 2 days of this smell or however long it takes. Usually takes me about 2 days. So.
No thanks.
I started really looking at getting one of those giant cast iron cauldrons so I could do lard outside over a fire, but the crock pot method's way easier. Yeah.
Yeah, she uses turkey roasters, basically. I'm going to make myself look dumb here because I don't really get involved in cooking much, but they're basically what you put a turkey in. She's got 3 or 4 of them, and then she just, every time we butcher a cow, She just renders it all down, and she'll use it in all kinds of soaps and all kinds of stuff throughout the year, and cooking oils and all kinds of stuff, you know. So she don't go all the way through the processing. She just gets it all down into the oil, and then she'll freeze it or whatever it is, and we'll use it through the year.
Nice.
But,
Yeah, those
yeah.
turkey ovens are awesome for a canning kitchen for
Yeah.
that reason. And then it makes bone broth out of the bones really well, and you can just set your temperature. And the third
Yeah.
thing is it cooks down your tomato sauce nicely.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to like sit there over a stove watching it, making sure it didn't get too hot. It's a good set it and forget it tool.
Yeah.
So I keep 3 of those around too.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess the only thing you better before, huh?
About purging all your extra clutter, but those are not on the auction block. Those are staying.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I got a question for you guys on homesteading. So what are you guys doing with all your extra eggs? Like, we're making dog food out of ours, but you have anything else you're using them for?
Yeah, so all my employees get eggs. We put them up by the time clock. So my employees haven't had to buy eggs for 5 years probably. But when we get a lot, if they're dirty, if they're nasty eggs, we just break them right over. I'll give them kibble just to put the eggs over. Other than that, my dogs eat mostly like we kill old chickens off, roosters off, or rabbits. I've always got rabbits, and we'll just take and thump one on the edge of the cage, and we just feed them. They'll eat whole. When you start feeding raw, you'll take a pair of scissors, cut that belly open to get them to start. Once you do that once or twice, your dogs will take rabbits. Now that can't be an inside dog, obviously. It gets messy, but we'll kennel them up because they'll be food aggressive over the raw animal a lot of times. But yeah, the eggs, man, we just crack them right over. Or like this morning, I had frozen ones. We'll just give them to the dogs, and they'll just carry them around like popsicles.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I had a pocket egg, and I then did not have a pocket egg. I had to wash my down jacket.
I always forget about pocket eggs.
So that was a disappointment. I haven't had extra eggs tagged for about 1.5 years because we've been doing a flock reset. So we're going to have them this spring. The last time I had them, I freeze dried most of them. And then other ones I scrambled and froze because when we do our spring workshop, we go through about 250 to 300 eggs. So I'll put them in 20 eggs per bag. They can heat them up in the sous vide to serve to people as scrambled eggs. And that works great. I actually have 2. Yeah. I found 2 of those bags in my freezer audit, and we'll be eating those in the next 2 weeks just to use them up because I'm not serving people 2-year-old eggs from my freezer. Yeah. But yeah, I kind of miss extra eggs, you know, when you've gotten past all the deviled eggs as snacks and eating the eggs.
Right.
And then, bad ones go to the dogs.
My wife takes them and puts them back in an egg carton, stacks them 4 across the bottom, 4 across the top, and puts 8 dozen in a sun oven. And she leaves them outside for half the day, and it hard boils every one of them, and then she throws them to the dogs like treats. In the sun oven. But I would like to. Yeah, it actually works really good. I'd love to freeze dry them, but we don't have a freeze dryer because I'm concerned about the power usage from a solar perspective, because those things you can't interrupt the cycle. And so if I could shut it off at 7 o'clock at night and turn it back on at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'd be more apt to buy one, but we haven't as of yet because of that.
Yeah, we did hundreds of, like Amanda said, we did hundreds of them last year. Typically, if we're running that thing, I'm running protein typically in there. So, and we will also, it's going to be hamburger or it's going to be chicken breast, and we're going to pre-cook it. We're going to cook it and season it with the thought that if we're ever eating that, fuel will need to be consumed, conserved. So it's already cooked. We can just heat it up at that point with warm water.
Yeah.
But the way I always joke about it, like if we're eating that stuff, I'm not eating that. I'm eating prime ribs. You guys are eating that stuff.
Yeah. I've seen some comments that just
fried eggs on the road sometimes just to get good eggs when I'm, out for a week.
I've seen a bunch of comments on there about sell your eggs. Well, the problem is where I live, there's so many homesteaders around us. Everybody has eggs. They're not worth anything.
I have to deal with human beings. my time costs too much money to sell eggs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw John put a post on Facebook once about eggs. We have eggs, I think. I don't remember what happened as a result of that post, but he is not currently selling eggs to anybody. That's all I know.
Yeah.
I said I've got 20 roosters. You guys can use them for dog food. They'll make great chicken and dumplings. just come pick them up. And I had 50 questions about what kind of roosters. Can you send me pictures of the roosters? Not a single person came and got a rooster. I literally killed them all over the next 15 days and fed them to dogs. Dealing with human beings, man. I would rather if I put a rooster up for $50, I'll have some dude show up to buy the $50 rooster. If I try to give it away, it's 100 questions.
Yeah. Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, I stopped giving things away online. I actually, as part of my purge this month, put things up for $10 and $20 that I didn't want to have to actually haul off to the garbage. So somebody would buy it and I didn't have to deal with 20 questions. And it totally worked. Like the sofa walked off for 20. The person who showed up turned out was a neighbor. And I'm like, I only put a price on it because I didn't want to have to deal with questions. You can just have it for free. You get the neighbor discount.
Put it out the road with a price on it, with a sign, and somebody will steal it. You won't have to worry with it anymore.
Not my road. Okay, awesome. So we have a hypothetical situation here from, I'm not sure who this is, but this is a person just like, what would you do in this situation? Assume that you had just bought 50 acres in Central East Missouri. There's a well, power, and access. What type of house do you think you would build? Stick frame, ICF, unconventional? Like, how would you approach making that decision?
You want me to go first?
Yep.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Facebook user. I don't have enough context in the question because is my budget unlimited? I mean, because if it is, I'm building an ICF home. If I have plenty of time and plenty of resources, but let's assume that that's not the case. I would build a traditional house, and I'll tell you why. First of all, the parts are everywhere. You can go to Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards. You can go to any of those places. You can pick them up. It's easy to build. You can do it by yourself. And I would build the house just like I built my house in a series of pods because then it allows me to live there as I go along and to continue to expand out. So the short answer is I would build stick built. Mainly because I could get it everywhere and it's easy to do. But if my budget was unlimited, time was unlimited, and the zombies weren't at my door, I'd build an ICF house.
John, what would you do?
I'd do a barn dominium, basically the same thing we did. I would probably build down, put a basement in, and then build the barn dominium on top of it. I would put in commercial culverts. I'd put in a cistern for water retention. I'd put a couple next to them that are dry storage since we're capping them anyways. We're going to bring in big cranes and we're going to put those concrete caps. We can drive semi trucks over them. We can put gravel over the top of them. We can grow on them. Nobody knows they're there. I would run culverts for egress and entrance with concealed entrance. But basically from the outside, it would just look like a steel building. I really like the steel building. It's super fast to dry it in. You can live in a trailer. You can live in a tent inside. You can build out your apartment in your house and then build it in sections. Whatever you think you need height-wise, get higher because you can build vertical and still have headroom. And you can leave that end open, which is exactly what we did for garage. And then you can run lifts and you can always cut doors in. So you can bring vehicles and equipment in and storing things vertical. Everybody loses out by storing vertical. So if you've got that height and you've got racking, and if you're at 14 feet, that's your minimum pallet racking. So if you run all your stuff off of 14 feet minimum, whatever height you need, you want higher so that when you run to the sides, because it's always going to step down, you can always extend on the end, but it's harder and costlier to extend on the sides. When you're putting your concrete in, put in thicker concrete in your garage because you're going to want to put in your lifts and your forms. And if you want to run any heavy equipment, they're going to have to add it later. While you're pouring concrete, you might as well put your PEX in there and run off of a wood-fired boiler, just like Bob just did. Badass setup. And then whatever concrete you want, put in more concrete. You're always going to want overhangs. Those overhangs on the side are going to help to cool that house. You can always enclose them at a later point and dry them in for garages. The most damage done to anything on this property is just sunlight. If you can get that under an eave or into an awning of some kind, it will prolong and stop all of that degradation on all that equipment you have outside.
I 100% do not know what I would build because I would need to see the property and make some of the decisions based on my goals for the house. And can I take advantage of things on the property? I also don't know enough about planning the architecture to take advantage of like the tilt of the sun. Like the Amish build, eaves that go out long enough so that in the summer the sun's not hitting your southern wall, but in the winter it is, and that can be
Yep.
leveraged into a better heating situation. I think the argument for stick built, besides what Tag is saying, is if you think you're going to want to resell that someday for something other than cash, it's easier to finance that. So it's easier for the person to buy it to do it. And I know I like the aesthetic of 1880 to 1920. So I might let that enter in as well. But then again, I've been looking at like the strength of dome homes in Tornado Alley. If you're going to be in Tornado Alley, the dome shape, the tornadoes don't rip it up in the way that they will rip up a stick built home. So I'd be looking at that in that situation. And I've really been getting into hempcrete because of River and Amani moving to Tennessee and some of the benefits of that. But that being said, ICF is also pretty darn cool because of the ease and the insulative factors. Like that's super tempting. I love big windows and natural light and all of that stuff. But I'd also be really open to other things like an earthship or something else, depending. I don't know that an earthship is ideal for Missouri because of the humidity. I know they can work in humid environments, but I've also heard a lot of people have problems with them if they do it wrong in humid environments. So, those are all things I'd look at. And part of it is what's my long-term goal for me? Is it something we're building with seventh generational thinking where it's going to pass on and pass on and pass on? Well, then I'm less worried about can it be resold. If it's something that might be resold, I'm going to also let that factor into the long-term plan. Question for solar, ground mount or roof mount? Oh, we've got both on right now. Tag, you go first because I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, 100%, 100% of the time, ground mount. Because I live off grid, I have to be able to clean my panels. I want to be able to service my panels. I don't want them sitting like a big old mirror on top of my house where everybody in the world knows they're there. 100% ground mount.
I have roof mount because I don't have the ground to put them on. And that means right now, so getting ready for the cold with the solar running the pump house, that means that we are charging the battery bank from the grid, which we can do. Yep. Or if the power goes out, it's going to be with the generator. Mm-hmm. So the trade-off there is, yes, we could get on a ladder in the ice and like scrape that off, but it is harder to maintain on the roof. So to the extent that you can do that, then I agree with you, Tag. Ground mount is better. It did not work with property, and my neighbor's like, but you can have a cleaner on a pole. In fact, I walked into my house and saw that the 40-foot pole is out and somebody's been cleaning the solar panels. So it can be done, but it's certainly not fun. And ice is going to happen from time to time.
So I'm pretty sure the man that put them on your roof said never put them on your roof if you don't have to. Every place you drill a hole is a chance to rot out, and it will eventually leak in the future. Everybody goes and do not put silicone around bolts that are leaking. Pull the bolts out, put new bolts. That silicone, you end up with a whole half-inch rusted out in a couple of years off of that. Also, tracking. Everybody I've talked to that really does it says tracking's a waste of time. If you look at Curtis Stone, he just has adjustable panels, no tracking. I don't think Tag, I don't think he has any solar tracking. When you really talk to dudes that actually, the guys that sell the systems, none of those dudes have tracking on their stuff. It's just one more piece to fail. It's a lot more money, and it doesn't add enough. It's not enough for the cost of it.
Yeah, my panels will adjust. I made my mounts myself, but my panels will adjust in 4 positions for the 4 seasons. And I just use a big cam that I had made at a machine shop, like you'd see in like a disc brake, basically, a big cam. And it just moves to 4 locations. That's it. And it's done. But I think something Nicole said was really important, which is all of these questions, there's a whole bunch of depends in it. Because do you have the room? As Nicole didn't have the room. I would rather have solar on my roof than nowhere.
Yeah.
100% of the time, right? I mean, so it depends. What are you trying to accomplish? Like, I will never have grid power. So because of that, I don't have that as a backup. Just this last snowstorm we got 6 inches of snow, and my 5'4" beautiful wife was out there with a big long squeegee cleaning the solar panels off because that's our source of power. And so I think it just depends on your needs, and it's maximizing what you have. If you have grid power, use it to your advantage, and if you've got a big southern facing slope, use it to your advantage. So I think it just depends on individual need a lot.
And where you want those solar panels is never where they need to be. The further you put those solar panels from those batteries, man, I bought 50 feet of not wire to push power like that, just to tie two buildings together. I bought 50 feet of direct burial, 3 wire. And I don't remember what it was. It was $700 for 50 feet of wire, just to run power from this building to that building. That's not even to move power like that. I've got 10,000 feet of building. I would love to have those panels on the roof because that's a lot of panel. It all takes up room, and that's room where you can drive things and you can plant things and you can build things.
Yep.
Yeah, I use my racking to park my lawnmowers underneath. I park equipment underneath my solar panels because they're up about, the shortest ones are up about 5 feet. The tallest ones are up about 9 feet. I just park stuff underneath them, stack wood underneath them, store PVC pipe underneath them, stuff like that.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, if I build a carport, it might be a solar carport.
Right. See, I think that's the point right there, right? Is make use of what you have and think about it from that perspective of how can I get the biggest bang out of my buck? Because we're all in different situations, every one of us. And I get so much sun, you get so much sun. And so I think the situation is just different, but I think someone said it earlier, which is it just takes planning. Yeah, sit down and maximize the resources you have, I think.
Yeah, I find it helpful to pay a consultant to help you with that plan because they're going to know things you don't, and they're less emotionally attached to thing X going in location Y on your property, where they can say, okay, you can put it there. This is how that increases the cost, or that's how it decreases the effectiveness. If you put it over here, it's going to be better. And when we emotionally detach from the property, we can do that. But it's faster and easier to pay somebody to help me figure those things out, which is why I do that. Totally worth it.
Yeah, well, the good news is if you're in this world long enough and you have enough connections, you always have somebody to call. There's so many smart people out there. I can't tell you the number of people I've met at Self-Reliance Festival, for example, that I talk to all the time now. They're calling me about something and I'm calling them about something, whatever it is. But that's a good thing. Keep asking questions. Because I don't think any of us know it, Nicole. I don't think any of us have it 100% right. I don't think so.
No, we it's funny. I've been homesteading for 17 years now. And I'm still like having the mind blown moment when I watch some other homesteader who's been at it for like a year figure out how to do something 10 times easier than I've been doing it for 17 years. Mm-hmm. It's hilarious, but it's, you do it the way you learn it, or you do it the way you figure out, and you do it that way because you do it. And then somebody else innovates and it's way easier. The addition of the electrical canner into my life was awesome for me. I have like 70 jars of bone broth put up because of that, because I can just do 4 jars at a time and I don't have to bring out all the equipment. Game changer for me.
It evolves too, right? What's best for me right now definitely would not have worked for me, and it financially wouldn't have worked either 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you have to do that. You have to go through the difficult things in the beginning and the more tedious things to get to a point where you can do that. Best thing to have done on this property was to bring in a bulldozer, clear it all, and start over and put it where we want it. But I'm not going to do that. I mean, but that would have been the way to do it, right? But financially, that wasn't an option. We can with big equipment, we can push high points into low points and make everything usable. But that leaves a hell of a scar for years too.
Yeah. I think John made a super good point right there, which is we have to understand where our piece is on the board. Right. That's the first step of all of that. Where are you? And that's great advice, John. Great advice.
Well, I did that, man. We came in the first months here. We were here with loppers and small chainsaws. We bush hogged this whole entire property with 3 craftsmen riding lawnmowers because a tractor wasn't even in. When I bought the property, I couldn't afford $1,200, much less $120,000. A tractor was not at all happening. We were lucky to have a couple of pair of loppers on some days. Like we moved and mucked out. Amanda and I came in here with a little John Deere tractor, and I couldn't really operate it very well. And really all we did was shovel goat shit into the bucket of the tractor, and the tractor was just an expensive wheelbarrow for a while. And we did that every weekend. We just, her and I out here just mucking out pins.
It's so funny when you do
what a great part of the journey, though.
And then you realize, I mean, you get a tool, an automatic tool that can make it easier, how much faster it is, and you're like, whoa.
Force multiplier, right? We would have a big dump truck would come in with a grapple and drop off hundreds of rail ties. And I would have 5 guys an entire day, 40 man hours, moving rail ties and stacking them up. I do that on a Sunday in a couple hours with an excavator with a thumb, and nobody smashes their hands. And that it's all a force multiplier. If anybody listening to this, if I could give you only one piece of advice, commercial equipment, a skid steer and a mini excavator with a grapple, or just a skid steer, it will pick up anything we need to pick up. It will hold it while we cut it and buck it up. And it does everything you need to do. And you're not going to go to the emergency room for a smashed finger. You're not going to have a thrown out back. You're not going to have a broken arm. It adds years onto the back end of your life. And you can use that thing to make money if you ever have to.
Hey, was that a dig on Tactical constantly like smashing his thumb?
No, I've had almost all of the meat out of the ends, literally looking like a lobster tail filleted open. And I've broken all of these fingers over several times over my life.
Yeah. Every time I say I've been at an emergency room, my buddy David says, which finger was it this time that Tactical smashed? So.
Yep. And we never wake up in the morning and go, I think I'll go to the emergency room later today. It's the furthest thing from your radar. But just having the proper equipment or just access to it. If we had just rented bigger equipment in the beginning, even though it was more expensive, it would have cost so much less in the long run.
Yeah. When we built our homestead, the very first tool I bought was a skid steer.
Yep.
Very first one.
Yep.
Because I knew that my back's only so strong.
And I took this from you, man. You said, I always buy enough that it comes on pallets so I don't have to move it by human beings. And when are you ever... You're never going to look at that pile of 4-inch posts or 6-inch posts or gates or bales of hay and go, man, I wish I didn't have that. Somebody will always need it. And it's only going to cost more later.
Yep. Yeah. We actually have gotten to a point where we're buying inside of our community, we're buying semi-loads of things. I bought a semi-load of hardy board siding not very long ago. We went in 1,800 pieces on a semi. And
Awesome.
like, what in the world are you going to do with 1,800 pieces? Well, it's going to affect 6 or 7 homesteads before it's over. Instead of paying $14 a piece, I paid $5 a piece.
Yep. I remember when young in business, I said, man, I want a semi truck to come here once. And then semi trucks started coming. And then UPS started bringing trailers, and the whole trailer was ours. Now I want a spur line. That's my next goal. I want a property that has a train track on it.
Yep. How cool would that be to have a train come through?
Yep. Or a barge.
Yeah, right. A barge would be good too.
I mean, a barge is way cooler than the train, John.
We're close. I'm only a half a mile from it right now. Yep.
Yeah, you got to get that property across the street from you so you can get there.
Yep.
I didn't realize how close the water was to where you are.
We're
like, I know it's down the road, but it's just like literally on the other side of those other properties, isn't it?
Yeah, we're 120 feet above it. We are the hill.
So they don't flood.
I like that. The SOE Express. I like that.
Yep.
That's from Luddy. Yeah, if we have that, we can do train rides at Self-Reliance Festival.
Yeah. Yep, John could be the next John Reardon from Atlas Shrugged.
Apple Shrub. Yeah, that's a little inside joke with a couple of dudes that are on here. Somebody didn't know what Atlas shrub was, and they're like, apple shrub. Yeah, we just need elephants.
Yep. Yep. I think every American this year should write in John Galt for president. That's what I think. Everyone.
You can rent digital billboards. They're not even expensive for like $1,000 a month. You can put almost anything you want up there.
Yep. John, you want a railroad. I want to watch the mainstream news say, who is John Galt? That's how I'll know I made it, is if I can get the news to say that.
Yep.
Okay, so a question for me. Did the house down the road from you sell for the asking price, or is it sitting like houses are here? Background on that is somebody listed a 3-2 near me on my road for $529,000 with 4 acres, like steep as could be and rocky, and an easement instead of a driveway that touches the road. Trying to tap into the people who are stupid and buying real estate from other states and don't realize the value of real estate here. And the answer to that is no. Shockingly, it has not sold. But it was really cool that it happened, because Tactical and I had a visioning discussion about the Huller homestead that led to the cabin he lives in now will become an indoor classroom and canning kitchen. And he's going to build somewhere else what he wants to live in. So that was kind of cool. But last I looked, it had been price reduced to $509,000, and it's been on the market for like 3 or 4 months now. So when you pull comps in this area, you can't finance that. You're not going to get the appraisal. That's the core underlying issue there. So they need somebody who pays cash and doesn't look at real estate values. Most people who have enough cash to do that are going to look at the real estate values. Like, I don't know who that person is who's just like, whatever. And it's not that cool of a house that you're like, oh, the Brady Bunch was shot here or something. Like, there's some intrinsic value. So
most successful people don't make dumb decisions. That's why they're successful.
Correct.
Owner finance. You only pay 5 times as much.
Well, that's how those little $10,000 lots work, right? Owner finance, 20% interest.
That's how those guys buy hundreds of thousands of more acres. Because they sold the same
be fast
pieces.
about ejecting people who don't pay too, because then they get the property back and they've gotten the payments the whole time. That's part of the game.
Yeah, if you want generational wealth, man, you build storage units. It's the same thing. People have an emotional attachment to something they don't want to see. They will pay forever, and when they stop paying, you can sell all those contents. It's the same thing. With treacherous property, with steep property, you can go in and bore and put in piers. They can be wood, whatever, and you can build awesome tree houses. You can build decks and glamping sites. Those are great. There's a guy out east Tennessee here. He has 23 rusty ass truck beds on his property with old like old camper shells, not like camper shells. And people rent that shit out, and his occupancy is like 75%. Like, it's insane. The money Brandel, my video guy, was telling me about it. I'm like, there is no way. And he pulled it right up, man. It's legit.
Is it because it's like the experience, or is it just hikers? Like, what's going on there?
I don't know. There's plenty of rusty shit around here we can rent out, though. So maybe it's a stepping stone. Maybe they'll appreciate the better one after that. I don't know. But he's moving them, man. People are buying. There is a customer for every single product. All we have to do is connect them.
Yeah, that's crazy. Although East Tennessee, they might be near the AT.
Maybe.
I mean, maybe for a hiker, it's better than the tent.
He's in. I think it's in Crossville.
Crossville.
Collierville, wherever that Buc-ee's is over there.
That's Crossville. That's.
Yeah, I'd love to build some Airbnb someday on my land. Would love to.
You could totally do that too. You already have the draw, right? You are the destination. Yep. You guys are the Disneyland. Yep. That's all you need. That's what I constantly, no matter what you are, your most valuable thing is audience. If we can identify, if you just show, I like pocket clips on flashlights, right? It could be the craziest thing. There is an audience for everything. And if you have that audience captured, And then you invite them out. You can Airbnb. We can come out and do a content creator weekend. It doesn't matter. Yep. All you need is the audience, and then you can figure out the monetization on it. And it'll allow you to make your dreams come true.
I was just told that Smithville, Tennessee has the number 5 glamping site, probably from Hip Camp. Oh, on Airbnb. Is it in the country? In the country. And there's nothing in Smithville. Like, we have a cool lake, but somebody just put that together and marketed it well, and people go for the experience, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, they just come in as long as you can connect with them, man. Whatever they're in Nashville for, how do you draw them there? Like, what are people coming to Camden for? TAC response, SOE, used to be duck hunting. There's some good hunting still, but I mean, what are people coming? And they do. They come all the way here. They fly into Nashville. They fly into Memphis to come here. Who would have ever thought that? James Yeager put that on the map, you know? And when he said he was going to do it, people said there's no way that would happen.
Yeah.
There's a dude that flies in every 90 days from Japan, lands in Nashville, takes a class at TAC Response every weekend, and then flies home. I've seen guys from Israel, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Germany. I mean, you name it. Guys are sending dudes over here to take classes in Camden, Tennessee.
Well, and it's such a nondescript location, tactical response. Like, it doesn't jump out at you as this big thing, right?
Yeah, people
you
used to
you
walk.
have to be looking for it to find it.
People would walk in, and the same thing here. They walk in, they're like, I didn't know this was here. That's on purpose. We know.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, all of the comments tag you clean up good. Oh my God, tag. Those are hilarious, by the way.
I texted Tag because I had sent him the info for the show, and usually he gives me a copy or something, so I know he's gotten it. And we scheduled this, I don't know, a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
It was a while ago. And so I texted him nervously about half an hour before the show, like, everything's good to go for today. He's like, I'm in a suit.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Yep, I got meetings to be in today. Go ahead.
Somebody said there's an Airbnb that's a grain silo. I got a buddy of mine who builds custom homes around Tennessee here. And he said that farmers get money to get new silos. So a lot of them will give you the old silos if you just come take them down. He got a 16-foot silo. I ran into him at Sam's Club the other day, and he was showing me photos. He has got the most beautiful 2-story. It's literally a living room and a kitchen. And he's got a barn dominium that's just incredible. His kitchen in there, and the kitchen in this thing is just insane. And he built it out of a grain silo, and it's got a giant deck and an outdoor patio coming off of it. Man, it is incredible. These things these guys are building with this stuff. And he built. I go, who built that? He goes, my crew, me and 3 dudes. My guys came in, did the deck. He's like, I did all the rest of it.
Yeah, love that. Well, in my neck of the woods, a grain silo Airbnb would make a lot of sense.
Project this spring, like, when you guys getting ready for your events in May, right?
Yeah, it's the first week in May, and this Patrick and Bobby are hard at work at it. You know, I don't play a big role in it anymore, other than I show up and bring beer or whatever. But I don't play a big role. But yeah, they're all set. I think they got all the speakers set. I think they pretty much have everything done. They're just waiting for the time, you know, to come and that'll be that. And that's actually interesting. You know, my farm's getting to be. I pretty much have someone at my farm almost every weekend. And as we get closer and closer to those events, it gets busier and busier and busier for B and I. But we love it. I think it's absolutely, you know, awesome to watch people grow through that.
It's like getting all the kids back home.
This time, though, too, right?
Yeah. What's that?
You're at a new location this time.
Yeah. So they moved it because the place that it had been, really about 300 people is about all you're ever going to house on it. And so they moved it to a lake pretty close to where the old one was, but this one will house several thousand. So yeah, they moved it to a new place.
Yep. So the people you're hosting leading up to the event, is it to get ready for the event, or are they just coming out to check out your system, or what's that about?
Yeah, so there are people that I've met through, and actually many of them at Self-Reliance Festival. You know, there are people who come out that plan on tending the week of the Midwest Preparedness Project, but some of them have already bought land out where we're at, and they're going to be out playing with their land. Some of them are just coming in to just learn how to live this way. And just friends that I've made along the way. I speak enough around at different places. Last year I was at like 12 different events and met all kinds of people. And so there's, this next one, I got people coming down from Michigan and some from Florida and some from South Dakota and Arizona and all these places. And I like it because I think what better gift I can give than, encouragement and, that push to live free and to take responsibility for your own life and stand on your own 2 feet and quit looking for other people to help you, and I think if I can give that gift, I've accomplished something.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a good way to give back to the community too. It's amazing what a night's lodging and showing people around your place can do for somebody, because they see that it's possible.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing they see is that it's real. And it's easy to see on what's going on camera, right? But when they come and show up and see, oh my gosh, like this time of year, my wife is carrying 5-gallon buckets of water right now. That's a fact. My house, because we have lived in it, we've been kind of trapped inside for the last couple of weeks, isn't quite as tidy probably as it normally would be, right? And you got wood, 2 cords of wood stacked on a back deck, and you've got that it's real and not everything's perfect. And we make mistakes and we have blunders too. And my wife, I was giving her a hard time on Friday on our live because she froze a water pump and broke it. And I told her a week before this, I said, drain that tank. The weather's coming. Get that tank drained. Get that tank drained. And she said, "Oh, I've got a few more days. I've got a few more days." She didn't want to have to carry water, right? And I'm like, "Drain that tank. Drain that tank. You're gonna blow it. You're gonna blow it." And then guess what? She blew the pump. But like I told everybody on the live on Friday, I said, "I'm not gonna spend a minute worrying about that. What a great lesson." I'm proud that she tried to push it to limits. It didn't work out so good for her, and I got to buy another $200 pump. But it's real and it's raw, and we make plenty of mistakes, and nothing is perfect. And I have chipping paint in places that I haven't dealt with. And I've got stuff stacked on pallets, and I feel like I live at Sanford and Son sometimes, but it's real.
That's my everyday, man. We never unwater the aquaponic system. We let it run. The pipes crack. As soon as it freezes, as soon as it defrosts enough to start running, we close the valve. We chop it out. We glue the new section in. We know exactly how to fix it every time it breaks. We've done it for 6 times now. And I do. When I hear the pipe, when I hear that pump screaming, I'm like, I better turn that off. And then something breaks. We don't ever know where the break is until it dethaws. And that it's always like Sanford and Son. It's funny you say that because I say that all the time.
Yeah.
Like I used to, about 90 days, I'll be thinking, okay, SRF, I got to start cleaning things up. And then about 30 days, I say, okay, 30 days. I got 30 days to clean stuff up. And then a week ahead of time, I'm like, why are we pretending? Let's just show them what it really is.
Yep.
And that's what they come and see, man. It's just real life. That is everyday life.
Yep.
Yeah, I put on my to-do list today, clean my floor, because this weather, the amount of, I don't even like just stuff from the wood stove, but just the animals tracking it in, it's going to be a Herculean effort to get that clean. I feel like the floors in the country are never clean. Even if you take your shoes off on the way into the house, the floors in the house are never clean.
No.
And the dust. I understand why dusting was a daily task 150 years ago, because every time you open your wood stove, like a cloud comes out and goes and gets on your stuff. So.
Yeah. I had, you guys know who Kirkston Dirkston is? The YouTube channel. She's got like 1 million subscribers. She likes to go out and show odd and interesting homes. Anyway, she contacted me and said, "Hey, I'd like to come do a video on your house." And I said, "That's great. I'll contact you when I have everything cleaned up." Because, man, I got shit everywhere. Drives me crazy.
I think I saw her. She went to a fire tower at one time. I think I saw her do that one.
Yeah. Yeah, my house is super unique, and because I built it in pods, and there's a crow's nest that comes out of the top of it and all that. And I'd love for her to come do it because I think the story is neat, but I can't while I'm living in the Sanford and Sons life. I've got to get those pallets picked up. But they're on pallets. I can move everything.
The beauty of pallets is we can hide them behind shipping containers.
That's right. And behind each other.
That's why you need shipping containers too.
That's right. Yep.
We can stack them on shipping containers. we can always add more footprint.
Yep. Yeah. Good news, I got plenty of land to hide shit, but oh my gosh. I
Yeah,
just
I
can't
do not.
resist the bulk buy.
Pallets at my place would just be pallets everywhere.
Mhm.
Well,
It'd
there's
be all
people.
under Taj Mahal, so it didn't get rained on, and then you couldn't use Taj Mahal.
We went to buy pallets from this guy, and he had them for $1. And I said, "How many do you have?" And he said, "How many do you want?" I said, "Well, we'll bring some trailers and see what we can fit in there." And the answer is we can fit 63 in a trailer is what we can put in there.
Yeah.
And we brought 2 trailers. And they had built an entire house out of pallets. I mean, every bit of this house and this barn and this whole homestead. And it wasn't a little house. Like they had a 2-story. I don't know what was in the guts of it, but this whole place was made from pallets.
Yeah.
And they put it together, man.
Yeah, we have a couple out here, Jeff and Louise, who are in the middle of trying to build a new homestead, and they built their barn out of pallets so the cows will get through the winter.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah, if you just put in some posts and slide those things over there, we can skin them with anything. You can hide them with tin.
Yep.
You could even shrink wrap them with
Yep.
big wrapping for packing wrapping. You can put insulation in them if you need to. Man, it's just about keeping wind off of things.
Yeah, yeah.
My humanure piles are made out of pallets.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our rabbit bins are for compost.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Mhm.
I actually need a rabbit compost system because I'm not keeping up with them.
Yeah, the
Even
cement
though
trays.
that's a miraculous gardening fertilizer for the last 2 years. It's great.
Yeah, cement trays under rabbits are great. There's 2 sizes, and we automatically want to get the big one. And because we let things go too long, they're too heavy to move. So get the small ones, and it makes you move them, and they're easier to move. And man, we'll have a pile of rabbit manure 3 feet tall when we pull that out of there. And within 30 days, it's down to about 24 inches.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that cement trays came in 2 sizes until I went sledding in one yesterday.
I saw
it. Tactical had bought this big one, and I was like, "That's perfect for sledding. I don't have to use a trash can lid." And because I was going to go down the hill in a little one, but the big one was better. Just for the record, they make pretty good sleds too. But I can see, I can barely lift the small cement tray full of rabbit poop. So
yeah, it gets heavy, especially if there's urine in it.
Yeah, which there will be unless you drill holes in it.
Yep, and you start out clean, and by the time you've done a couple dozen, it's all over you. So just know you're going to have manure all over you. So just put on something that's going to be dirty that you can just skin off.
Yeah.
Homesteading's all about poop.
It's always poop.
Yeah. My wife has a special place to put her, and I quote, chicken shit shoes.
Yep.
Yeah. If you're what's better for sledding, the cement tray or the trash can lid, and the answer is definitely the cement mixing tray. Because you can fit all of you in it, and then you don't slow yourself down with a limb hanging out.
Yeah. The local hospital here does very little. You always want to go someplace else if you're injured, but they set bones and they close wounds. And every time it snows, the hospital is full of broken wrists from sledding. We have a place called Lockhart Hill, and you come sliding down these, and there's buildings at the bottom, and people hit those buildings, and it is always broken wrists.
No, I think I'd rather sit by the fire and watch somebody sled.
Hospital there. Go to Paris.
Yeah, Camden Hospital makes all its money when it snows.
What were you going to say, Tag?
I don't know. I don't think I was going to say anything.
He said
Do
no
you
broken
get
wrist.
to go sledding in Kansas? I understand it's fairly flat there.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not. You know what's funny about that? Everyone thinks Kansas is this barren place that's flat, but what people don't know about Kansas is the eastern half of the state is hilly and tree and woodsy and all of those kind of things. But we have hills, and we could absolutely sled on them. But I would rather sit by my fire and watch people sled. Let me see here. What's that say?
It says
Tag planning on being at Midwest Preparedness.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Tag planning on being at Midwest Preparedness Project. Are there vendors at it, and can we come see your Wallapini? So there are lots of vendors that show up, and if you reach out to Bobby Spags or to Patrick Henry from the Midwest Preparedness Project, if you're looking to vend, you can work through them and they can hook you up. The Wallapini isn't built. All I did was dig the hole because I had the bulldozer out there, but I haven't even started on it. And to be honest, it ain't in my top 50.
Tell them what it is. Tell people what it is.
Okay, so basically a Wallapini is an in-the-ground greenhouse. And so it uses the thermal mass of the earth. It uses geothermal to heat. And if you go look at a video called Greenhouse in the Snow, it's a guy up in Nebraska, which is way north of me, growing citrus in them. And they become pretty popular. My wife really, really wants one. I'll get her one at some point, but it's not in my top 50. But yes, you could come see the farm.
Check out Archicopia. There's a dude in Canada that's got one. It's enormous, and he's got banana trees in the middle of the winter. Mm-hmm. We've got a guy. Yeah, somebody said Henry County Hospital is nice. It is. That's the Paris. It's 30 minutes away. It's very nice. Over in Paris also is a guy, our guy, Tad, our heat and air guy, Tad. He's a lot more than that. He has a client over there that has greenhouses that has lemon, mango, and I think he's got pineapple inside it right now.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, Alabama says, I thought Kansas was like Tennessee with no trees. I actually saw trees when I was in Kansas. So
yeah, lots of water. You get on the eastern side of the state, it's very hilly and full of trees, lots of water. The western half of the state is barren. It's just prairie for as far as the eye can see.
Yeah, I think Kansas gets a bad rap for the prairie because when you're driving across Kansas, it feels very long. And then there is this just a border declared between that and Colorado. And then you're like, well, Colorado's super nice, even though it's even more prairie on the other side.
Right.
You know, Colorado has the Rockies, so they kind of get out of it. You can start to see mountains in the distance when you come over the border. So yeah.
That's kind of what I like about Kansas, though. You know, not a lot of people even consider it. And I mean, everyone that's moved to Kansas said, I never even thought of Kansas. You know, and so I kind of like it that way.
And yet you're putting together this awesome community out there of people who are freedom-minded and love homesteading and opting out of the system. Huh.
Yep. Well, see, then I get to vote, right? Which, by the way, as I didn't tell you guys this, I got my first official rejection from my county, which I just thought you guys might like this. So I applied to be on the tax board because I was in a county commissioners meeting, and one of the commissioners said, all right, Tag, you know, you want to bitch and moan, why don't you get involved? I said, okay. So an opening came up on the tax board. So I put my name in and they did an interview and I got my official rejection letter that they did not choose me to sit on the local tax board. So I'm going to frame it and put it on my wall.
Did you tell them all tax is theft?
I did. It threw their face in the meeting, in the interview. They asked me what I thought about property tax. And I said, it's the one thing that keeps us from being free. It's the one
put up a billboard.
Yeah. I'm fine with it.
It's the most.
Now what's going to happen is when I go to the next county commissioners meeting, I'm going to be able to tell them, you told me to get involved. I tried and you didn't let me.
Yep.
So
that's more powerful.
I'm excited.
I would love to see you on a property tax board.
Me too. We wouldn't have any.
Can't have that. That might be catching.
Yeah. Guys, I think property tax is the single biggest thing we should be fighting. It's the only thing that keeps us from being free. Because you'll never ultimately own anything, right? Because don't pay your taxes. I would vote for doubling, quadrupling our sales tax. I would vote for all of that if you remove property tax because I can choose what to buy. The property tax thing I think is egregious.
It is said with a 10% sales tax, just 10% flat tax. Every time you spend money, 10% tax. They would bring in more revenue than the IRS currently brings in every year, just off and abolish the rest of it. And they would have more money to operate with than anything else.
And they wouldn't need it for collections because it would be a whole lot less complex.
Yep.
Well, it's about holding something over you, right? Do you think they couldn't just tax you and not need the IRS? Why doesn't the IRS just tell you what you owe them, right? That's intentional. That's on purpose.
Yeah, of course it is. You know, I know a case of an older lady who's got 300 acres of land in a little old house that's been paid off for 50 years. Her husband died of cancer about 3 years ago. And she's struggling keeping up with the property tax. And she may have to sell the family farm that's been in their family forever because she can't pay property tax. That is egregious. That lady paid that house off. There's no reason why her property taxes should cost her more in the end than her house did. This is ridiculous. Of course it's on purpose. Yeah, it's ridiculous, and it's a fight we need to be fighting. And I talk about this a lot on my lives all the time, and I'll ask your audience the same thing. What did you do last year outside of your own circle to spread freedom? What did you do to actually forward the movement? And if the answer is nothing, yes, you got nobody to bitch at but yourself.
Yeah, I brought up in a forum about property taxes in Tennessee that if they would just start by locking you in at I came in, I bought my house, it was whatever, $350 a year for my taxes, which I know sounds really cheap to people, and it is. And it's part of why I bought that house. If you locked me in at that rate for the rest of the life of the house, I could at least plan for my future.
Right.
But by reassessing me every 2 years, that just goes up and up and up and up. I've got a property in Nashville that's tripled in taxes since I bought it. Yeah.
Well, with all the elevation in real estate right now, they're raising everybody's property taxes all across. Do you think they're going to downward depart that ever?
No,
of course not. Yeah, those taxes never come off. They said in Texas, over 46% of the taxes paid by Texans are for things that no longer exist. Horse and buggy tax, cobblestone tax, like shit that doesn't, it's not even a thing anymore.
Yeah. Well, this lady, because someone had made comment that the community should come together. The community did, and she's not going to lose anything yet. But here's the problem. There's going to get to a point in time where they keep pressing and pressing and pressing because you'll own nothing and be happy, right? And they're going to continue to press these revenue issues and these taxes issues. I may get to a point where I can't afford to help anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Here they hit you with property tax here, business property tax. I've got 3 buildings up the road that when we moved in here, we just left everything. So they look through the windows and assess, and I pay that shit every year. I have it over there. If this building burns down, my employees will go to work on Monday at the old building. We left it there. We still pay. The electricity's on, everything's on, and they assess a tax. They came in here and said, "Can we look upstairs?" And I said, "Oh no." And he said, "What? Why?" I said, "You don't have enough guns." And he said, "What?" I said, "Oh, you don't have enough guns. You cannot come back here. As a matter of fact, you can leave here and don't ever come back here." So they assessed whatever they wanted to assess, and we just pay it.
Yep.
And I talked to my lawyer, and he said, "John, just pay it, man." He said, "It's not even worth messing with. Just pay what they want, and they can go away."
Yeah, again, it's another form you fill out, right? In January, you get the form saying, "Tell us what real property you have, and then we'll assess tax on it." And if I run my LLC, Nicole Sauce Industries, I get assessed tax for this computer that I'm on that I use for the business, right? And the office. And if Hollow Roast Coffee is a different LLC and I use this computer, I get tax assessed for this computer a second time for that business. So it's not even like you're taxed on it once and that's it. They'll tax the same stuff multiple times to get their stupid fee. I remember being on the phone with them like, that's retarded. Like, that's really stupid. And they're like, that's just how it works. Okay.
Yeah, but it don't have to work like that.
Right.
There's two kinds of people. There's the person that people seek out. They want to buy a product or a service or a good. If my tooth hurts Saturday, I am more than willing to pay that dentist anything he wants to see me on Sunday. Right. The other type of person, the bureaucrat, would you ever go to the DMV if it wasn't for the threat of a gunpoint, right? We buy the car, pay the tax. We pay the registration, pay the tax. We buy the fuel, pay the tax. If we just stop going, a cop will stop you. You'll go to court. Don't go to court. They'll send guys with guns, right? That's a bureaucrat. We only use those services because of the threat of violence. You need to assess which of those people you are. And if you're one of those other people, you need to figure out how to become one of the other kind of people. Mm-hmm. If you have a job that only exists because they make people use your service, that's a problem. Yeah. Yeah, they use drones here in this little tiny middle of the nowhere place. They fly drones over the property. If you put a shipping container down, they want to charge you for it. You put gravel down, they want to charge anything you do to improve your property. And by the book, that's not supposed to be the case if it's not a structure, unless it's on a foundation. But they do. They raise the property taxes every year.
Yep. And I think we should all be paying our taxes under protest, which is a form you fill out there at the county courthouse, and do it every single time, and get in the fight and go to your county commissioners meetings and be a pain in their ass.
Or become the county commissioner.
Even better.
That's what Mike Shelby talks about from Forward Observer. That's one of his big things is you have to be available. You have to be active in your community, know your neighbors, and drag them to those meetings. There is some crazy shit going on. Until you hear it with your own ears, you won't even in this little town, middle of the nowhere. You would never, if you didn't hear it, you would never believe it.
Yep.
Yeah, but what your town needs to do, John, is the government officials need to allocate funds to make a roller skating rink. I understand from you.
That's the number one comment on the local Facebook page. We need something for the kids. I literally said, I go, what'd you just throw a dart? How did you get here? And some of them are like, yeah, kind of. What happens is this is the most impoverished county of all of Tennessee. So you get the DNA job. That means your uncle or your cousin worked at the factory or worked for the wildlife authority or the water department, the water authority out here. So those are the dream jobs. Most kids leave. They want to become a movie star or they join the military to escape here. People have left and now living in these cities with these jobs as a barista at 40 years old, they can't afford to live. So they migrate back home to what they knew as being the lower cost place. And they want to bring all the nonsense. How come we don't have a roller skating rink? How come we don't have a billiards hall? And I always comment, that's a great idea. You should totally open that. And the common thing is, well, we don't need another cigarette shop or we don't need another liquor store or whatever. I said, a man bought that with his own money. Like that building was vacant for 20 years. Any of you could have bought it at any time, but everybody wants to vote on money they didn't earn. You don't get a decision on how that man spends his money. I don't ever frequent those establishments, but somebody bought that and somebody employs people and somebody pays multiple levels of taxes to have that job. And if you guys didn't frequent that establishment, there wouldn't be four of them. Stop going there if you don't want to go there. You want a bookstore? I'm all about it. Open a bookstore. I'll frequent your bookstore.
Yep.
You can get your coffee at Hollowworth's to serve at the bookstore.
That's right.
Absolutely. Prison system. Yeah, look up the prison system and the factories in the prison system. You have government agencies that have to use that schedule of purchasing, and they buy their lockers and their pencils and their street signs from prison industry where they pay an inmate 46 cents a day, and they pay above. If you bought anything from Office Depot, Staples, or Walmart, it would cost almost 50% less than buying it through the schedule system, but they have to. It is captive money. They put people into a slave system. They use slave labor. They destroy their families. And then they have a captive audience that has to purchase the products that come out of those factories.
I was just thinking, because Tag and I were kind of talking about Self-Reliance Festival before we went live, and I'm sure he'll end up at one or both. We're not sure which yet. But a topic that might be fun for us to hear from you about, Tag, would be like 5 to 10 ways to opt out of some of these things that people feel trapped by, some of which is paying taxes, right? How can you reduce your property tax, or what steps can you take to further freedom and make a benefit for everybody? That might be I think I'd love to hear about that from you.
Yeah, I think let's start with taxes. This is the hardest of all of them because they just get you at every single corner. Now, there's things you can do by understanding the rules to the game you play by. And I'll give you an example. In my county, if you put a building on your property that's permanently attached to a foundation or is greater than 350 square feet, you pay taxes. So I can have a whole bunch of 349 square foot buildings, right, for my chicken coop and my rooster run and my geese house and all my duck duplex and all these things. I can build it that way, which will avoid, a whole bunch of the taxes. But the tax, again, is the hard thing. This is why I think it's the fight. And I'm in the fight for property taxes. I think it's the biggest fight we're going to fight. And I'm going to be a pain in everybody's ass until we change the rules and or I die. I guess either one of those will happen. But so there's that. But I think the other thing is what I always tell people to do is you got to understand who you're asking permission from. And it's so important to understand. John mentioned earlier about understanding where you are and knowing where you're at on the board, right? So open your checkbook. who do you write payments to? I mean, it's really not complicated. Everybody you're making payments to, those are people you're asking permission from. And then what can you do to minimize those? And I get people tell me all the time, well, Tag, it's real easy for you. You know, you had a whole bunch of money or whatever, which wasn't true, but I saved a whole bunch of money was the answer. But you know, they say that to me. The truth is everybody can do something, and it's about identifying what can I tackle today? What can I get this quarter? What can I work on? And whether that be, you know, power, or whether that be, you know, water, or something so simple. You can put a rain catchment system in for no money. It's not expensive. I mean, there's all kinds of little things you can do. Just do something. Get up off the couch and do something. And again, energy is I think energy is the biggest issue. I mean, for me, this is the thing that I would you know, push to anybody. And it's funny, I got a good buddy of mine named Mo, who's an engineer, and he tackled water first, and then he was hauling it by hand. And so him and I always banter kind of back and forth on this issue. But if you don't have to ask permission from the electric company, and you don't have to ask permission from the water company, and you don't have to ask permission from the mortgage company, and you don't have to ask permission from the sewer company, and you don't have to ask permission from the trash company, and you don't have to do that, I will be able to withstand the attack of the federal government on taxation much longer than most people, because I don't have to fight all those other battles. And so just do something. I mean, analyze your own life, figure out what you can do, and just tackle it. You know, Nicole talked earlier about panels on the roof versus panels on the ground, right? And we go through these things when the fact of the matter is just understand where you are. What resources do you have? Just sit back and do it, and then pick one and say, okay, I can do this one. You know, you might not be able to come up with $53,000 to buy a solar system, but can you come up with $200 to put a rainwater system in? Or, you know, $50 to put a rainwater system in? Just do something. Just get in the fight. And what you'll find it happens to you is you'll look in the rearview mirror and think, man, I got a lot done this year.
Yep. Yep. One project completed is better than 5 started. Absolutely. And they add up quickly.
That's right.
You have momentum. Once you have that accomplishment, you realize that you can do it. And then it's easier to do the next thing and the next thing. It's that snowball.
Yep. Well, it turns into a game kind of too. You know, that's why we built the ungovernable calculator, right? Because it's just a game.
Yeah.
How far can I push it?
And stop asking permission, man. If you go out on the internet and go, I'm in a water catchment system, you're going to have 800 assholes tell you how you can't do it. People just say shit over and over just because somebody else told them that. It's not even factual.
I love looking out on the canning groups on Facebook where somebody will be like, I just water bath canned whatever high pressure thing for 3 hours because I made up this number, and then it's just all of the you're gonna dies come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, if you want to see crazy shit,
science behind it and see what you really did there.
Yeah, ask a question about keeping rabbits or chickens, man. If I've done everything they said you can't do with them, and it all works. If it didn't work, we wouldn't have any rabbits or chickens today. They would have died out generations ago.
Yeah. Don't listen to the critic. Teddy Roosevelt had a beautiful quote, and if anyone wants to look it up, it should be inspiring to everybody. But he talked about it wasn't the critic that counts. It's not where the doer deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by blood and sweat and tears. So if he fails, he fares while daring greatly. So his place is not with those cold and timid souls that know neither victory or defeat.
Yep.
Don't listen to the critic.
How much property should I have? Enough that nobody can see what you're doing.
Right.
What's the first thing I should do? Plant trees so nobody can see inside your shit.
Yeah. Yep. And if you can't get a big enough piece of land that you can hide, save your money and buy the next land next to you. And then save your money and buy the next one next to you. Just do something.
Yep. Plant bamboo or pine.
Not complicated. Yep.
I really wish I had invested in a perimeter fence a lot sooner.
It's expensive. I have more money in fences than I had in the cost of the property. But once you have the best thing that ever happened was putting those gates in. Nobody can come in here. You're trespassing if you come here.
Yeah.
It ends all of that. What are you doing here? Well, we were just turning around. Yeah.
Right. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Well, we were just getting into the freedom stuff, but I understand that Tag has a hard stop coming up soon. So let's do once around the horn and we'll wrap up for the day. Tag, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, I'm Tag. You can find me on the YouTube channel Life Done Free or the social media platform freesteading.com. You can also find me at pretty much every Self-Reliance Festival, Midwest Preparedness Project Festival, all of them. And I think, my parting words to everybody today is just, what'd you do? What did you do outside of your own world? And if the answer to that question is no, you got to check yourself. Do something every day, because there's going to come a day where together is all we got.
John.
I do a live every night at 9 o'clock on YouTube. We have these conversations right here. I've got 2 podcasts that we do. I've got 5,000 videos on YouTube. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Locals, Float, Me, I'm everywhere. If you want to talk to me, it's me you talk to when you talk to us through social media. So hit us up.
Yep.
You guys drive the conversation. The conversation will be about anything that you want to talk about.
I'm Nicole Sauce from the Living Free in Tennessee podcast and Hollow Roast Coffee. You can find all my stuff at NicoleSauce.com. But it is time to grab your Self-Reliance Festival tickets. It is April 6th and 7th. And I'm at the point where I'm so excited about the content that I want to explode right now, but I'm not going to go into it. We've got some pretty cool speakers queued up for this one. They are rolling out a few more on the site every day. So keep your eye on selfreliancefestival.com. That's also where you get your tickets and your pre-event workshop tickets. Guys, thanks so much for joining the live stream. We'll see you next week.